Hi guys, this is the next video in our series of how the heck do you use CAD? All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to share everything. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so once you have the FDOT workspace installed, you're going to know because right here where it says workspace, there should be a drop-down menu and you should be able to select FDOT. You want this selected because this is what we're going to use to reference in all of our tools. After you've created the work set, again, I went over this in the last video, you're going to basically create a new file and you're going to reference in the blank file. Or if you're like me and have a few documents already created, you can go ahead and select any one of these to activate the workspace. Letting it load for a second. Bentley CAD systems are notorious for loading kind of slowly or crashing a lot, but you should not have to worry about anything crashing or not saving, as it is standard for this to autosave. All right, giving this a minute to load. All right, so you should know that FDOT is correctly installed because there is this handy dandy little tab over here that says FDOT. Oh, great, now we're not responding. So you should see the FDOT tab over here, and this is basically going to be your hub for document creation and cell library references. So the very first thing that you're going to do, and you can do this to kind of just like practice around with all the tools and, in order to get familiar with CAD, you're going to select create file. And it'll probably come up as a different discipline before, but you're going to select, let's go with roadway. And the file group, it's going to say geotechnical design file, but we're not doing a geotechnical design file. Let's do a roadway design file. And let's say we are going to do project profile layout. This is kind of like a negligible thing. It's more or less just, how to organize different things. It's kind of like, calling a sandwich a sandwich. You can call a sandwich whatever you want. It's still going to be a sandwich at the end of the day. This is just basically for the program to reference in with the files, because once you create a workspace, FDOT is basically going to spit out a lot of different files for all types of uses. So this is basically like what this is. And for county, you're going to select the county I'm in, or the county your project is in. And for me, that's Orange County. And that's automatically going to set your coordinate system so that if you ever want to reference in any Bing maps or any, file images of the landscape, you can go ahead and do so. All right, I think I'm gonna, let's go with, let's go with plan sheet. Okay. Then you're gonna press create open file. So this is gonna, like it says, create a file. And it's gonna take a minute because it's creating and opening up a whole new file. So give it a moment. All right, and then once it's up, you can close this out. All right, so now we're gonna go over super basic stuff. So you know that the coordinate system is set properly because at the lower right corner of your screen, you should see like a little world icon with a green check mark next to it. Now, if you're just doing random drawings for the sake of, a CAD drawing for a simple report or anything, you don't need to worry about the coordinate system. But if you are doing a actual plan submittal for a specific project, it's really a key thing that you have this green check mark, because that basically means that whatever you're drawing is, completely compatible with, the actual map and world out there. All right, so when we're drawing something, we're going to go to, you will never guess this, the drawing tab. All right, so the most valuable tool is going to be place line, believe it or not. And this is pretty straightforward. You should be able to place, let me change the color of this. Let's change it to default. Okay. All right, so for those of you who have used CAD before, drawing lines is pretty simple. So basically the draw line tool in Open Roads Designer, MicroStation, or any similar Bentley applications is going to act more like a polyline tool if you're familiar with that. So as you can see here, I can pretty much continue drawing a line without stopping. All right. And if you want to stop drawing a line, all you have to do is right click. So let's say I want to draw a line, but I'm done drawing the line right here. I can just right click out of that, and that's going to stop drawing the line. Basically, if you want to get out of the tool, but not completely stop using it, you can just like right click out of it. It's kind of like if you're using a knife to cut something, or we should go with a less morbid example. Let's go with scissors. It's kind of like when you stop cutting something with scissors and you still have the scissors in your hand, you're just not cutting something anymore. So that's basically what right click does. I'm just going to go ahead, select all this and delete it just so we can start something different. So another important thing to have turned on are your snaps. So basically, if you want something to look flush or straight or, not like a total mess, you're going to want to have your snaps on. So let me draw a line. For example, let's say we have this line, right? Different snaps are going to make my cursor snap to different points. Right now, I have the key point snap turned on. So basically, that's going to identify key points in the line. So the computer is basically snapping to this endpoint right here, the middle point right here, and this left endpoint right here. Meaning that if I see this yellow X pop up, that means I have AccuSnap turned on. That's basically what that is. I can just click on that and I know it's going to snap to this. Because if I randomly just click what I think is on the line, you can see it's connected, but it's not completely flush with the line. And we don't want that. I'm going to delete this. All right. So now that you kind of are a little bit familiar with how to connect everything and make sure everything is connected, you can just adjust it down here as needed. Just be mindful that if you have AccuSnap turned on, that if you connect something like a text label with AccuSnap, sometimes it can break the element because basically AccuSnap is the computer is basically thinking that both of these lines are one and the same, but they are not. They are individual elements. So sometimes, and you'll see later when I describe how to do labeling, that is always the case, but it can make for some not troubling, but it can make for some pretty rough circumstances when doing all of this for CAD design. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is the move tool. So I suggest, again, having your snaps turned on for move tool. And when moving a tool, selecting an endpoint. So like, let's say I want to move this line right here to the left side of this line right here. I'm going to press move, and you can either have this element selected by just pressing element selection, or you can just select it directly with the move tool. I definitely recommend highlighting this first, because if you have overlapping lines like this, if you just go in with the move tool, it might think you're trying to pick up this bottom line. But as I mentioned before, if you kind of like want to, keep using the tool, but you don't want to use this item, boom, right click, and then you have the other element selected. All right. So starting over, I'm going to press move, and I'm going to select this bottom corner here and move it to the other side. And then I right clicked out of that to deselect, and boom, we have our line moved. Fantastic. All right. Now let's try and copy this. And you can do it the same procedure. You can either directly press copy and click at one of the points right here. I suggest clicking this point right here because this is the corner of the line that is going to be intersecting with this line right here. Or you can go in and select the element and then copy. It's up to you and your preference. I'm going to show you guys what I think is the quicker method and cycle around again. So when I press copy, it selects this automatically. And then I'm going to click right here, click out of it with right click. And as you can see, we have both of these lines right here. All right. Now I'm going to show you guys how to plot what are called dummy lines. They are called non-plotting elements. So non-plotting elements, as is defined by FDOT, is anything basically anything within that is plotted as a non-plotting element, it will show up in your CAD drawings, but it will not print or be referenced in if you reference in the model. So for instance, if I draw a really lovely shape with my non-plotting element, this shape, it will be here for me to use during the drawing process, but it won't be printed with everything. So this non-plotting elements are really helpful because you can kind of use it as a middle point. So like, let's say if I want to mark where the middle point of this line is, I can just have this right here that I can go ahead and reference. All right. Now, another important tool is the mirror tool. So like the name suggests, this tool will mirror certain elements over another one. So I'm just going to press mirror, and then you're going to first select the element you want to mirror. And then since like we place this on right here, boom, it's going to mirror that tool. But let's say you want to copy something as well. Like you want to mirror something, but you want to keep the original. Just make sure that when you have the mirror dialog box pulled up, that you press make a copy. So let's go again. Let's press the mirror tool. I'm going to select the element that I want to mirror, which is this bottom line right here. And then I'm going to click at this non-plotting line that we just made. And boom, we have our lovely rectangle made. And if you think the non-plotting lines are a little bit distracting, I know I do. Something that I usually go ahead and do is just go ahead and delete them if I don't need them. All right, all right, all right. What else can we do? All right, let's say the rotate tool. So when you first click the rotate tool, again, it's pretty straightforward on what it does. It rotates the object. Something that you're going to do is change it from active angle to either 2 points or 3 points. And if you want to rotate a singular element, you have to click on it first to identify that it exists. You're going to click the first point, and then from there you can go ahead and rotate it, and boom, second point, finish where you want to rotate it. Now let's say you want to move more than just one object. You can either do this by selecting all of them at once and then pressing rotate. So here I'm identifying everything. I'm identifying the object I want with the first click. And then the second click is me rotating it, everything. But let's say you don't want to have to go like this every single time, right? That can be kind of a hassle. So in order to do so, we are going to group elements. You can either group your elements by pressing Control plus G, or you can go over here and press group. So basically, instead of recognizing this shape as, 4 individual lines, it's recognizing it as, one whole rectangle. And from there, you can just rotate directly. You don't have to worry about selecting all of the elements at once. You can just go ahead and do it. But let's say that, you're kind of sick and tired of all of these elements, being together, and you want to modify any of these elements right here. Well, you can go to drop elements. So go right here to the light bulb, click drop element, click on it itself, and then you should be able to alter any of the individual parts right here. All right. And then kind of like self-explanatory is the ellipse tool, the polygon tools, points you won't really have to use. Arc tools are pretty self-explanatory. There are a few different arcs to choose from. Just like make sure that when you place an arc, it will kind of give you a few different options on how to place that circle. So start center is basically from the outside of the circle to the radius, which is, the center of the circle. You can do start, mid, end, which is, again, start at the middle of the circle, the middle point of the circle, and then ending. So personally, I like to do, when I place the circle, I prefer doing it either by the center or the diameter, but again, that's just me. All right. Let's say, for the purposes of this example, we're going to stretch this line. So if you need to stretch a line, all you have to do is click the end that you want to stretch and drag it out. But let's say you accidentally made this line too long. So what we are going to do is we are going to trim this out, trim to element. So like we always do with all of our tools, we are going to select the element in question that we want to trim, and then we're going to select to what point we want to trim it to. So let's say I want to trim this top line here that I have selected to this point. I'm just going to go ahead after this is selected, click this, and boom, it has been trimmed. All right, and I think that is about it for the basics of how to draw like individual shapes. In the next couple videos that I make, I'm going to show you guys how to do stuff like labeling, how to reference certain things in for plan production, and yeah, then we can go from there. Hope this helps.